I think the pendulum is going to be really volatile, swinging back and forth for a while. And I think that the thing that leaders are gonna have to do is understand and try to keep up, which you almost have to be unemployed to keep up with AI. But you have to understand the foundation of the LLMs and how they're shaped in order to leverage them appropriately. And then decide, is this a tool that's helping us? And how do I enable my team to do it? And where do we need to just move fast instead of get it perfect?
B2B Marketers Off the Record, sponsored by Headley Media, for honest, practical conversations about what's really working in B2B marketing. Welcome to B2B Marketers Off the Record. I'm delighted to be joined today by Leanne Dow, the host of Markigy podcast, which I'm really happy to have been on recently. So super excited to welcome Leanne, also a Fractional Marketing Leader. So would you be so kind as to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, I'd love to. My name is Leanne Dow, sometimes Leanne Dow-Weimer, but always Leanne. And I spend a lot of time helping organizations grow through strategic relationships, customer insights, ecosystem, and just systems thinking and trust-driven go-to-market strategy. So the way that I do this is through real conversations, real customer research, and actual relationship building with the customers for long-term wins.
Amazing. And that's exactly why I knew you'd be perfect, because you're constantly having these real world conversations. So I knew there'd be like so much depth of information that you've got in your brain, which I can't wait to unpack. So we kick off with a kind of fun question, which is, tell me you've been in B2B marketing for many years without telling me.
Before webinars, we used to have lunch and learns, and they were actually in person in a conference room where lunch was brought. And somebody spoke with a PowerPoint slide that was had to have a very special dongle to project onto the screen.
I love that one. You mean it wasn't in front of a screen?
Like it wasn't a webinar. There was no gift card.
Oh my God. The days before webinars. Right. So tell me, how did you get into marketing in the first place?
Well, the long answer and the short answer is that I realized that that's what I was doing all along. I had been in many different positions that were kind of sales oriented, always with a big heart and best of intentions, not realizing they were sales, and quickly realized that I will do all sorts of marketing to get out of cold calls. And so that's really when I kind of looked back at the pattern of what I was really good at and what excited me to come up with strategies. And kind of in business school, what was the easy A? It was marketing, because it just was so natural instead of swimming upstream to try to do something that was a bad fit.
Yeah, I think that's what the most sort of natural marketers say is like, well, clearly, like there's a lot of logic involved in marketing, as well as like, the deeper thinking, the psychology and stuff, which we sort of take for granted. I think that's what most natural marketers do. But yeah, I can absolutely understand the sales point of view and then being like, like there's a lot of people that go from one side to the other, but that just gives you the broad understanding, I think, what we're aiming to achieve in the revenue department, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and honestly, it makes me better at sales enablement and partnering with the sales directors, because I know what it's like to get that, not just the no, but like the mean ones. And so my goal is always just to make everything smoother for the person on the receiving end of both sides of the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about that stakeholder buy-in at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is one belief about B2B marketing you've changed your mind on in the last 12 months?
in the last 12 months, I've changed my mind on the details of the applications of AI.
Okay.
So before I was heavily like, oh, it's a baby. You cannot let it do X, Y, and Z. You should not check with it about blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And now in this amount of time, it has gotten so much more sophisticated that I actually do. I changed my mind on letting it do more than it was.
Okay, that's really interesting. I think, yeah, it's there's definitely this evolution happening, isn't it? Of like the types of applications and what people are able to trust with it. That's interesting. It was actually one of my the questions from another guest. So at the end of the podcast, when we get there, I'll ask you about recommendations for people in the future. But to link it back, it's the question was how what sort of applications are you using it for at the moment?
Yeah. So, would you like me to answer that
Yes,
now?
please.
I'm still using it to verify and to brainstorm and
Mhm.
lightly to create. My mindset is that if I have an organic human based conversation and I can use it to use its probability and its decision making abilities to pull out the highest performing clips or
Mm.
the things that are based off of turning something large and organic into something smaller to distribute it
Mhm.
better. I feel like no holds barred, you know, like
Yeah, of course.
wildly appropriate to do because I'm not asking it to synthesize the
Yeah.
new ideas that people are. Where I also am leaning on it more is for like enrichment or for workflows
Hmm.
or its abilities to do agentic stuff is
Hmm.
pretty good. The place where I actually stopped was where I was having it do, I tested out some editing where I was
Okay.
having it pull pauses and it pulled the beginning of my email and the end of my
Oh,
sign off for my podcast. I was like info at, and it like all you hear is the markigy.com. And so I was like, okay, I
we can't
can't
trust it.
completely trust it yet, but it's
Mhm.
so close.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, isn't it? And as we test and as we learn more, I'm sure that these kind of things there'll be ways and processes to avoid things like this, but it's still, yeah, it's definitely just can't be like given free rein, trust it, it will do whatever you want it to do. Um, yeah, especially on that kind of on the content side is where it needs to be a bit more handheld, as from my experience anyway. But yeah, I think the applications are endless, and you know, especially within marketing, we have the ability to always be testing. So that's probably one of the greatest things within marketing teams at the moment. Um, so in line with that, what shifts are you seeing with how B2B buyers are behaving right now?
I don't think it's a shift. I just think more people are coming on to my side of the understanding is that it really is relationship based.
Hmm.
I think before people were getting by with like brute force numbers
Yeah.
and they still were under the impression that the business account on LinkedIn was a high priority instead of influencer members within the organization's personal accounts.
Yeah.
And I think that you know that's one shift that I've for sure seen is the rise of the
Mhm.
personal brand and the rise of leaning into that with organizations.
Yeah. I saw or I heard a stat the other day that was one only 1% of people on LinkedIn will actually ever post something. And I
Hmm.
just thought, oh my gosh, that's huge. Like, you know, the potential there is huge, but it's definitely like to agree with you. It's definitely something that I'm seeing more and more from different people who are kind of like, you know, always quiet connections coming up and trying to build that relational thing. As I think it's like side by side with what AI is doing, you know, that content has become more accessible, but also people are then going, okay, well, what's real? And then those real relationships, of course, where you can see people interact and have these kind of genuine conversations, are becoming that much more valuable.
Yeah. And thankfully, some of ththose flash in the pan trends, at least in my algorithms, have flashed and left,
Yeah.
or just aren't so pronounced that it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
So things like comment blah 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 to get blah 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 download, and it's just like you gotta like that's not how social works.
Yeah. Yeah.
That always irritated me. It's good, like please do it like within reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I think certainly LinkedIn sort of cottoned on. They're changing a lot in the algorithm, and certain things are working, certain things aren't. But yeah, if it felt hacky, it's probably hacky. It's probably not going to work for ages. So yeah. What's a strategic bet you think more marketing leaders will need to make over the next couple of years?
I think the pendulum is going to be really volatile, swinging back and forth for a while. And I think that the thing that leaders are gonna have to do is understand and try to keep up, which you almost have to be unemployed to keep up with AI. But you have to understand the foundation of the LLMs and how they're shaped in order to leverage them appropriately. And then decide, is this a tool that's helping us? And how do I enable my team to do it? And where do we need to just move fast instead of get it perfect?
Yeah, there's so much involved, isn't there, with LLMs, and because the reporting side is still in its infancy in a lot of places, and there's a lot of kind of rhetoric around this. It's got to be focus on the traditional SEO side of things, but then there's these again kind of hacky things that are going to make you appear, or how much focus should people be putting on those things versus, like you said, you've like staying abreast of it is almost like half the battle, really, is knowing that you're in the know, because otherwise I think it's a feeling as well, isn't it, of I don't know what we're doing here. Like, I don't know if we're going to be appearing for now, if these things, like, if we're responding to the current kind of trend, and then that doesn't have longevity to it, or we appear for 6 months and then we don't appear anymore in the LLMs. I think it's just that constant sort of knowledge seeking, isn't it?
It is. And so I think that there's a lot of noise. But the one thing I would suggest everyone do, whether or not you really understand it completely, is there's an open course MIT YouTube thing where you can see how the LLMs, it's like basically like how to build an LLM or something, or how to build an AI, but you're not actually building it. It's just explaining to you the, like, this is what it's doing and this is how it comes to this decision theory kind of setup.
Yeah.
And if you can sink just 1 to 2 hours into watching that, it'll change completely your understanding and way to leverage these things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things, that people just think it's a knowledge base of loads of answers, but really digging behind it, you're like, actually it reaches conclusions based on what it finds, like commonality, like repeated text and repeated information is what it gives a lot of kind of bias to. So yeah, I think there's some basic understanding that would really help a lot of people, a lot of marketers.
Yeah.
So with that, what's something B2B marketing teams are still doing now out of habit that you think no longer works?
Picking one, just one. I think that they're still ignoring the foundations of people, process, and systems. If I was on a call yesterday where someone still wanted to do like a one-off campaign of like an influencer user generated thing. And my advice is that I encouraged them to think of recurring long term campaigns, because I think there's so much temptation to save money or to just test it out that we aren't defining what a true test is, and then we aren't setting up the test for success.
Okay.
If you are testing something and you don't have an onboarding series, or you don't have a landing page properly set up with UTMs and tracking, or you don't have the real meat and bones underneath it, your test will not give you the answers you want, or it will give you a false conclusion, or or.
Yeah.
So I think that that's one thing that like just I get really riled up about.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think there's so many things in that as well, isn't there? So like to dig down, it's starting at the very beginning of why do you want to do that? What, where does it fit in the rest of your marketing? Who is it for? I think, that customer centric point of view that we should all have as marketers, but it's very, very easily forgotten and swayed by influence, isn't it? Like, we're just like anyone else. We can be influenced to do the next trending thing, but it's actually does that align, bringing it back to like you said, the thoughts and processes of it all to make sure that it marries up with everything else that you're doing.
Yeah. Are you just throwing money on a cool campaign, or
Yeah.
are you testing and validating if you have the right stuff to make it work?
Yeah, it's a lot about what marketing is about, isn't it? It's you will be testing a lot of the time, but being able to do it with strategy and to do it with a kind of the goal. What's the goal of that? Is kind of what it's all about, really. And I suppose in that situation, you're doing exactly what you're meant to be doing with that consultancy point of view for a client that needs to be brought back to their strategy.
Yeah, and I think that that's really why people choose me specifically, is that I do kind of push back. I lovingly, and I'm one thing that I think that, or that I've been told that I do exceptionally well, is not pushing back by saying no, but pushing back by saying yes, and here's how we can do it to make it successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if the response to that is, oh, that's far too much.
Sometimes it is. And sometimes
Yeah.
people don't realize what they're asking because they're really good at this other thing.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
can be good at all the things all the time. It's just how it is.
Absolutely. What is is a type of investment that marketing leaders should be protecting at the moment, particularly if budgets are going to be tightened? Maybe what would you say that they should be focusing on?
I think that they should be focusing on organic and using that to make smart moves with their paid. I think that paid is a necessary evil. It's not, and it's not evil, but it is a necessary growth lever to pull. But I think that because there is a learning curve to how your ads perform, and very specifically, how it's set up and all these things, that you should already know organically through your audience if this is resonating with them, and then put investment behind them. Make sure that that demand exists, and that you can be like, well, or at least have the basic information about who your audience is when you go to get more.
Yeah, that's a really systemic thing that people can put in place. To you're placing a bet, aren't you? When you're putting money on something, you're saying, look, whatever ad system you're using, they'll say, oh yeah, of course we've got the audience for that. But it's like, actually you've pre-tested, and that resonates from your brand point of view, and you've got that whole kind of customer journey like synced up before you've even started and put the money on the ads. So that's a really, really good answer. Thank you. The last one before we move into kind of where we go forward with the podcast is, what is one thing you wish you could change about marketing if you could?
I wish I could change the reputation.
Yeah.
I think that it's so often seen as like oh, you made a pretty poster with glitter, like the arts and crafts department.
Yeah.
And well, first of all, I love arts and crafts. I have a whole craft bin. But that's not what I do professionally. And I think that so often outside of B2B, when you're having these casual conversations, they don't understand that about data.
Yes.
You know about algorithms. You know about psychology and consumer behavior, and you dabble in all of these things that it really takes to be successful. And it's not, well, we decided to use a blue logo because Twitter uses a blue logo. Like, that's cool. That's not going to get you there. And I think that when you get past that type of reputation, you see it as a necessary layer to any business growth in order to drive revenue, so that there is credibility for the salespeople, so that there is a journey for the buyer, so that the brand is manifested through every single touch and it's consistent and pleasing and delightful. I think that it needs to be brought in early and often to some of these high level conversations.
It is that it brings functions together as well, doesn't it? It's like, it's the stickiness, if you like, of translating what the company is internally as well as externally, and you've got, like we were saying, all of the stakeholders to keep happy. So there's so much value in it that it does need to be constantly communicated, because like you said, then if it's not, we see the overall reputation being, oh, the colouring in department, and it's like there's so much there. It's revenue, finance, key business decisions, the market research, all of that stuff that is cross functional and very highly valuable. So the next questions are about kind of the next episodes of the podcast. So who do you think we should invite on to speak next? And I feel like this is going to be a really hard question for you, because you've interviewed so many people on your podcast. It's going to be like, who is your favorite baby?
I love all of my children. Thankfully, all of them are people that I look up to so much. And it's really like, pick your poison. Like, what topic do you want to know more about? And I get so excited about introducing people.
Yeah.
I think where I'm going to go with this is someone from my inner circle, Teresa Potratz.
Okay.
And I love her as a podcast guest because she does have the really great answers. She has the like pattern recognition, the grit, the how do we do this and how do we like think about this differently mentality that really helps her drive growth. So I have a great opinion of her, clearly, but all of my podcasts, I don't publish episodes that I don't believe in strongly.
Okay. So, first thing is that I'm going to dig out on one of the episodes with her and then reach out to her. So that's a perfect recommendation. Thank you very much. And what is a question that you think that we should ask our next guest? It doesn't necessarily have to be that this is going to Teresa.
Well, you should ask them how they're using AI for personalization.
Okay. I'm guessing that's going to be a huge you want to delve into.
I think that's a really great question to show how they view their customers, and it's a really great tell. So it's kind of one of those like filter questions too.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, there's kind of there's so much going on with like mass personalization, and I think a lot of marketers will feel a lot of ways about that question, the answer to that question. So that's a really good one. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for coming on. I think it's been a great session. Can you tell people how they can find you?
Yeah, obviously LinkedIn is my jam. So you can always find me on LinkedIn as Leanne Dow-Weimer, Weimer, or you can just email me info@Markigy, Markigy.com. But always tell me where you heard about me so that Chloe and B2B marketers off the record get that sweet attribution.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful.